This video is for Greek class, and this doesn't go along with one chapter. Instead, it's an overview kind of to how verbs work in general. And I've said many times Greek is a verb-driven language, and so verbs are really, really important. Here's what you know so far about verbs. Verbs are conjugated, and so the verbs in Greek tell you what person is doing the thing. So pisteuo means I believe, pisteues means you believe, pisteue means he, she, it believes, pisteuamen means we all believe, pisteuete means you all or y'all believe, and pisteusi or usin means they believe. The 5 parts then that are go along with that conjugation is if it's first person, second person, or third person. First person being I or we, second person being you or y'all, and then third person being someone that's over there, he, she, or it, or they. Singular or plural, so I, you, he, she, it, those are all singular. We, y'all, they, those are all plural. It also does have tense, which we've mostly ignored up to this point because you've only known the present tense. But we're also going to learn about verbs in the past and in the future from now on. Verbs that you've had so far have all been active. The subject has been the doer of the verb. But now we're going to find out that the subject could be acted upon, could be passive, or they could be middle. And then verbs also have a mood. And so far we know these 2 moods, indicative, that indicates the person, and we've also seen some infinitives. So like to see or to hear. We don't know who is doing the hearing or the seeing in that case, and it usually goes with another verb. But we're going to learn some other moods, most of them next semester. We'll learn about a subjunctive mood, we'll learn about an imperative mood, we'll learn about participles as a mood. So there's a bunch more moods, some of that coming second semester. And then, last but not least, there are lexical forms to verbs, and so this is partly how we keep track of the verb system. And so let me walk you through all of these. So the verb tenses are these ones. There's the present tense, which is what you've been learning so far and the most important. But we can also talk about things that will happen in the future and things that have happened in the past. In English, we only have present, future, and past, but in Greek, they actually have multiple versions of the past. And so we're going to have to pay attention to this, and we'll go through each of them individually, so it will help you out. But the imperfect is like continuous action. The aorist is a simple past. The perfect is past with present implications, and the pluperfect is something that happens before something else. Here's an example that might help us with this, and so I'll keep using this one throughout our class. I was graduating. And so you would say that if you were maybe narrating a video of yourself walking down, getting your diploma, shaking the hands of the president. If you just have like a still photograph of it or a photograph on your phone, then you'd just say, I graduated. But we don't know what was happening. We aren't able to see it going on. Once you have graduated, you're still a graduate. It has implications into the future. And then the pluperfect is before you could graduate, you had to first finish your final papers. And so they have a way of distinguishing all these things in Greek. Theirs is a little more complex of a system than English is. Verbs can also have voice. And so far you've only used the active voice where the subject does the action. So Paul kicks the ball. But all of a sudden you can have a passive voice in which the subject receives the action. So now the ball was kicked by Paul. Paul is still acting on the ball, but the ball is actually the subject. And so the subject is going to be marked by the nominative. That's why you had to learn those nominatives. Then you can have a middle voice, which is reflexive. We'll talk about this more. It's a little more complicated than this in Greek. It sometimes works between the two. Sometimes it just designates a different meaning. And sometimes it's something that you do to yourself. Like I wash myself. I brush my own teeth. And a lot of Romance languages have like a version of this middle that is something that you do to yourself. Verbs can have mood. And so mood refers to the way that the verbal idea is expressed. And so indicative is an affirmation. Paul went to the store. That just tells us what happens. Infinitive is unlimited with regard to time. And so Paul wants to go to the store. When? I don't know when. That's just what he wants to do. He wants to go. And the imperative is a command, like go to the store. So those are some of the moods that we'll meet in Greek. We'll meet a few more next semester as well. In addition to this, here it's telling you, the subjunctive mood is one that expresses contingency. So if this happens, then that will happen. And the optative is a hope for or a wishing for. And then participles are their own beast. They're not technically a mood, but we're going to treat them like a mood. And they are an action that kind of contextualizes some other actions. So like going to the store, he picked out a something or other. Or going to the store, she found a friend. So we'll treat participles as one too, and they'll be an important part of next semester as well. Greek verbs then have all these characteristics: person, number, tense, voice, mood, and so we're going to pay attention to those in the next few chapters. They also, though, are built on different principal parts, especially the different tenses. And so we have 6 different principal parts in Greek, and from these principal parts you can learn all forms of Greek verbs. And so we're going to learn some that are regular and that don't have any unusual changes, and then we'll use some that are irregular, and you just have to learn them. And so here are the 6 principal parts, just so you can see them. The first principal part is the present, and is the most important one, because if you have that as your base, then you're going to be able to do other things. Built off of the base is also the imperfect, which is your most basic past tense one. And so we're going to really focus on chapters 2, 9, 10, and 11 that kind of form the basis of this thing. The second principal part tells you about the future. The third principal part is telling you about a different version of the past, the aorist past, like the simple photograph or the photograph on your phone of your graduation. The fourth principal part is, and the fifth one, both have to do with perfect. And so those are things that have happened in the past, like I have graduated, but it still has implications for today. And then the sixth principal part goes back to an aorist, which is also a past tense. And so the future past of those related to that as well. Don't worry, we're going to do this so many times, it's going to make sense. I actually have a really fun chart that I'm going to use to help you out. Here's what you should do for now for learning the Greek verbal system. Be sure that you know your present tense verbs, so the one that you've already learned, the luo, lues, lue, lu, amen, luete, lu, usi, luo, lues, lue, lu, amen, luete, lu, usi, and then we'll learn the passive, the middle passive of that, which is luomai, lue, luatai, luamatha, luesthe, luantai. Really important. And then I would also suggest that you learn the imperfect, learn the first version of the past tense, and by learning that, you're going to have a bunch of your baselines. So if you focus on these next few chapters, you're going to really be able to nail the verbal system. Because after that, we're not going to memorize charts. We're going to only learn a few charts here, and then we're going to pay attention to the differences. And by distinguishing those differences, we're going to be able to make lots and lots of verbs without too much work. Okay, this is an introduction to the Greek verbal system. If you have questions, feel free to email me, or we can talk about them in class. And I look forward to exploring Greek verbs with you. This might be a good video to pin and come back to after you've actually learned some more verbs, and a lot of this will make more sense at that point too. So yeah, like I said, I look forward to talking with you about this further in class. Great.